Hi guys! Our cow this week is a very famous person named Helen Keller. You may have heard or may not have heard of Helen Keller, but you're going to learn a lot about her this week. Helen Keller lived a very inspiring life for everyone, including me. And today we're going to start with this story, which is an easy reader biography all about Helen Keller. Helen Keller lived from 1880 to 1968. She was a hero to many people. Helen Keller was deaf and blind, but that did not stop her. She wrote books and traveled around the world. Read on to learn about her inspiring life. Someone who is deaf is someone who cannot hear, and someone who is blind is someone who cannot see. That means she could not see or hear. Imagine that. Helen's parents worried while Helen was sick. Helen was born in Alabama in 1880. She was a happy baby. But when she was almost 2, she got very sick. For days she had a high fever. After her fever passed, Helen was not the same as before. Her parents realized that she couldn't hear or see. The illness had left her deaf and blind. Helen could not see the spring flowers or hear the birds sing. Imagine how confusing this would have been for Helen. Helen could not hear words, so she could not learn to speak. It made her angry that she couldn't communicate. Sometimes Helen got so angry that she would kick and scream. Helen found ways to let her parents know what she wanted. When she wanted ice cream, she pretended she was cold. When she wanted her father, she pretended to put on glasses. She made different movements to show what she wanted. Pretty resourceful. When Helen was 6, a teacher named Annie Sullivan came to live with her family. Annie wanted to teach Helen to communicate with words. But how? Annie brought Helen a doll. Annie spelled letters with her fingers into the palm of Helen's hand. Annie spelled the words doll. Then she handed Helen a doll. But Helen didn't understand that the letters spelled doll. Annie tried to teach Helen about words. She tried to teach her everything, that everything has a name. One day, Annie had an idea. She led Helen to the water pump. Annie let the cold water run over Helen's hand. Then she wrote the words water in Helen's palm again and again. For many weeks, Annie tried to teach Helen about words. It was a very difficult job. Suddenly, Helen understood. The letter spelled water. Now she knew that everything had a name. I learned a great many new words that day, Helen later wrote. Mother, father, sister, and teacher were some of the new words that Helen learned that day. Helen loved books, and she read one after another. Helen later learned to read books in Braille. These books have raised dots that stood for letters. Helen could feel the dots with her fingertips. She also learned to write and speak. When Helen was 20, she went to college. She also wrote a book about her life. Now people all over the world could read Helen's amazing story. Helen used a special typewriter to write. Her first book was called The Story of My Life. Over the years, Helen visited more than 30 countries. She met many deaf and blind people on her travels. Everywhere she went, she gave people hope. The leaders of many countries wanted to meet Helen. For the rest of her life, Helen worked to help deaf and blind people. She showed them that they could do many things. Today, people remember Helen Keller as a true hero. We can do anything we want to do if we stick to it long enough, Helen said. Here is a timeline that shows some important events in Helen's life. You'll notice that the timeline goes across like a ruler, except this ruler has dates in it. And it shows the entirety of her life. So in 1880, she was born. She gets sick in 1882. In 1887, that's when Annie Sullivan first comes to live with Helen, and that's when she learns her first word. In 1902 is when she writes her book about herself. She finishes college in 1904, and in 1913, she begins making speeches to help deaf and blind people. And then lastly, we have a glossary. So this has a couple of words that might have been difficult to understand. Braille is a kind of writing for blind people. It includes raised dots that can be felt with your fingertips. We also have the word communicate, which means to share information, ideas, or feelings. The palm is the inside of your hand. Someone who is inspiring is encouraging and gives confidence or support to someone. And that is our first story, all about Helen Keller. We'll learn more during the rest of the week. I hope you've enjoyed.